Oke, mulai ya. Oke, guys. And for overseas faculty, thank you very, very much for supporting and joining us. So first of all, I'm Eka. I'm neurosurgeon, but now I almost jobless because of COVID-19 case drop. Then that's why I become a presenter now. So I apologize. I'm not a professional presenter. So that's why I am a provocator because I have no talent. Yeah, sorry for that. Yeah, I'm not professional. Okay, all participants, why we make this talk show? Because you know that many of our clerkship students, our course, they stay home. They are a lot of frustration. They are depression. what they are doing. Really, really big problem. That's why we need to share. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here on behalf of Indonesia Medical Education Association. So I'm blessed by Professor Budu, President of IPK. Then I'm here. And thank you also for Berita Satu for assisting all of the IT, because I don't understand IT at all. So I just prepared this presentation. So before we go to the opening from President of IP, so I would like to share 1 minute what we are doing here. So here is my colleague, Dr. Titis. He is a pulmonologist and she is lecturer in our medical school. She just want to show you 1 minute using a stethoscope, yeah? A wireless stethoscope. How can she educate student from here and student at home, yeah? Okay, Dr. Titis, 1 minute, yeah? So she is a very good at lecturer of us. Yeah.
Ini di poliklinik yang bisa saya lakukan untuk mengajar kelas selama masa pandemi ini adalah dengan telemedicine. Jadi pasien kita minta mereka bersedia untuk melakukan pemeriksaan fisiknya, bisa di-share ke koas saya yang ada di rumah.
So
tidak kelihatan.
So this is simulation patient, ya, simulation patient.
Di sini saya menggunakan.
Kelihatan, Prof. Eko, tidak kelihatan, Prof. Eka.
Kita pakai, kemudian disambungkan dengan HP, kemudian bisa kita lakukan rekaman. Kemudian di rumah koas saya akan menggunakan rekaman dari pasien yang saya periksa.
It's a wireless stethoscope.
Tapi tidak kelihatan di sini.
Suara paru, kita akan menekan di sini ada bagian jantung dan paru dan suara nafas.
So she use just that phone and want to listen the lung sound.
Jadi stetoskopnya, membernya akan saya tempatkan di dada pasien. Kemudian pasiennya kita suruh nafas.
Suara nafas.
Tidak kelihatan, tidak ada yang dilihat ini.
Ya, sorry Prof, ini pakai wireless stethoscope. Suara nafasnya mana?
Bukan hanya suara, gambar juga ada kelihatan.
Gambar tidak kelihatan. Okay, 1 minute. Yeah, but I see you, Prof. Saribudin.
Yeah, you see me, but I didn't see the presenter.
Oh, okay.
I see you.
Presenternya itu kamera udah ganti.
Di tempat saya di sini.
Kemudian saya akan ganti ke suara jantung.
YouTube masuk, tapi kalau di
Okay, 1 moment. Yeah, maybe combine with YouTube.
Di sini
Kamera ke mahasiswa.
kemudian di rumah setelah saya akan mendengarkan suara nafas.
So he is our medical student, yeah, using up. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for short example. So we come back here, yeah. Mulai lagi. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Titis. Thank you very much, all. Dr. Andre, would you please sit down here? He is my vice dean and he will assisting me as a timekeeper. Okay, so I would like to invite Professor Budu, President of Indonesia Medical Association, to give an opening. Please, Professor Budu, he is from Makassar, from 3 hours flight from here. Please, Prof. Budu.
Thank you, Prof. Eka. Good morning, everyone. I am the president of Indonesia Medical Education Association. Our happy to our virtual meeting today. And you know, the COVID-19 pandemic made us cannot meet each other and also cannot come to hospital free, like every day before COVID-19 pandemic. And also even our student cannot meet the patient, cannot meet the hospital, and also meet the teacher in the hospital. So this time, we would like to share our experience during COVID-19 pandemic, how to settle up the clerkship program in hospital from all of our institutions. So I would like to uh, put my great uh, thank you for all of our outsiders speaker, our distinguished excellency guests from Harvard University, Professor Mikhail Kacarino, from Oxford University, Sankarini, Mrs. Sankarini, and also from Stanford, Professor Budi Wiryawan, from Melbourne University, Professor Steve Chamber, from Imperial College of London, Professor Karim Miram, and from National University of Singapore, from Laos, and from Cambridge University, Professor Thomas Santarius, for the time to come to our virtual meeting. And all of our colleagues from the Dean around the Indonesian area, from east to the west, for his time to come to share the experience how to settle the clerkship program during COVID-19 pandemic. Maybe for this moment also, many lectures from around faculty in Indonesia, also our clerkship student join our meeting. So I would like to say, please join us and see how many institutions to settle the clerkship program in each institution. And maybe that is all my speak for this moment. And I also would like to thanks very much for University of Pelita Harapan, Professor Ika, for his great effort to make this virtual meeting, special for IT team from University of Pelita Harapan. Enjoy this meeting, and we begin this virtual. We say enjoy and make this meeting friends, and maybe no discussion each other, but we just always hear the experience from all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Guru. Thank you. So we will start with our international faculty first. Yeah. I'm not the side of everyone, but I would like to invite Michael Catalino from Brigham Hospital, Harvard. Sorry, because Michael, thank you very much. This is a midnight in Boston, right? And you're going to sleep. So you may talk first.
That's very kind of you.
Okay, so Michael, so sorry, actually I don't know personally about you, just you know that you are very young guys, energetic. Professor at Law introduced me to you that I met Professor Law when I giving visiting lecture in Harvard. So please, Michael, share your experience. What's happening in Brigham Hospital, Harvard this time? What are you doing with the clerkship medical student? Please, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Eka. It's an honor to be a part of this talk show. And so I want to just say thank you very much for the invitation from Dr. Laws and I. I will talk today about our experience at Harvard University and the COVID-19 pandemic and what we've done with our clinical clerkships. Let's see. So as you all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has totally changed the way that we live our lives. one of the main issues that we've experienced with this pandemic is that you can see from this chart here that any disease, any communicable disease that is highly fatal and but asymptomatic can run the risk of the inability to control the outbreak. You can see here on the left side, it says the ability to contain the emerging virus in the absence of countermeasures. So as the disease becomes more asymptomatic or has mild symptoms, it's more difficult to control. And this was published in the New England Journal in one of the early publications in February. And we've seen that it's very asymptomatic in a lot of people, and so it's difficult to contain the virus. And so that's why we need to have social distancing and remove our medical students from the hospital. This is a picture of a patient with COVID-19 that I took care of actually in one of the ICUs. So I can tell you all that even as a neurosurgical fellow, we are redeployed and taking care of patients with COVID-19. So what we started off with in March of 2020 was we immediately pulled the students from all hospital-based rotations. At that point, the preclinical, which our preclinical years are really just the first year. The second year of medical school is what we call core clerkships, and then the third and fourth year are advanced clerkships. All preclinical courses went virtual. All the professors were able to convert their lectures to the virtual space. And then 1 week, it took about 1 week to convert all of the learning online. So there was a delay, but we were able to accomplish that. The second thing, most clerkships were finishing anyways by the end of March. So the clerkship directors were asked to just provide any continuing education material. The problem was this was last minute, and a lot of clerkships didn't finish the way that we expected them to, especially in surgical clerkships where a lot of the experience is in person and in the operating room. This was almost impossible for this first March clerkship that was affected by the virus. Starting in April of 2020, we essentially shifted all of our elective courses from the end of the year and the advanced clinical clerkships, which occur at the end of your fourth year, right before graduation. Those clerkships were shifted to April so that they satisfy graduation requirements and they don't require in-person, in-hospital experience. So those clerkships for us are the Essentials of the Profession course, and also a number of elective courses on medical ethics, epidemiology, health policy, and so forth. All this teaching was strictly done through the virtual space. We use Zoom here, but other virtual software is available. And then starting concurrently with that were these advanced integrated science courses. And these courses were offered for the students. 2 courses were available per month, and for the month of April. And they include a deep dive into research advances in fields like microbiology, global health, neuroscience, so that the student as a clinician can also be educated in the cutting edge work that's being done in the laboratory and in the public health sector. Finally, these courses, as I mentioned, were all graduation requirements anyways. So we anticipate that we'll be able to add the hospital-based clerkships to the end of the year, and so make up for the lost time. Then starting in May, just now, we have transitioned to a volunteer-based learning curriculum, which essentially assigns each student to a different role, and that could be something such as handing out masks at the hospital, helping to screen patients for COVID-19, helping at shelters or local clinics that are in need of assistance. It could be calling patients, talking to patients on the phone, helping them with scheduling or insurance needs, advocacy and health policy, whether that's writing in a local magazine about health policy or advocating for our patients in other ways. And so their interaction with patients and healthcare is not absent, although the bedside teaching is compromised. And we've put together, actually credit goes to the medical students for putting together a really fantastic online medical student curriculum that's being translated into over 20 languages and is going to be available, I think is currently available in English online. I provided that link to everybody in an email. So please take advantage of this. And the curriculum goes through multiple modules, and this curriculum is what our students are using to.
Michael, 3 minutes more, Michael.
Yep. The weaknesses of this approach obviously are the lack of bedside teaching. There's no patient interaction, and the observational skills and reasoning that are only acquired through a case-based text. Now, what's the biggest issue here? I think we have to recognize what we're missing with online learning. Clinicians are natural Bayesians. This article from the British Medical Journal talks about the clinician as a fundamental Bayesian. We acquire information not just by what we read, but what we see, the physical examination, the diagnostic tests, and everything that we do, and the bedside evaluation of a patient is absolutely essential. And so what my final thoughts are in addressing all of these issues are that we definitely have to find reliable online resources to bolster the medical education. It is very important to keep engaged with each other through the virtual space, engaged with professors, engaged with students, and engaged with our friends and our families, so we can maintain that human personal connection. This will also help us with observational diagnostic skills. We can use imagination, visualization, meditation, surgical videos, clinical case pictures. I really love the virtual stethoscope. I used to listen to my wife's heartbeat, when I was in medical school. So you can, as long as you have a stethoscope, you could listen to your dog's heartbeat. If you have a dog, or you could do something of that nature. But you could listen to pets, you could listen to your friends, your family, whoever you're around. And it's important also at this time to spend time with our families, given the amount of people who are dying from this disease, especially our older family members. It is absolutely critical that we spend time with them, because they're most at risk during this pandemic. So the last thing, I'll leave you with some resources. These are 2 websites. One, I've mentioned the curriculum of the COVID student response. The one above is called MedPix. It's a National Library of Medicine through the NIH. It's a curriculum that's based on images that have clinical case correlates, and there's over 1,000 images that you can use, from x-rays to pictures of a rash, and they're extremely helpful in developing diagnostic interpolation of the material that we need going forward and that we're missing by not being at the bedside. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. So you may join, or if you are sleepy, you may go to the bedroom. It's midnight in Boston right now.
Oh, okay. You're too kind.
Thank you very much. Okay, dear friends, because many of medical students watching us, so maybe I would like to make our talk show becoming more millennial. So I would like to invite a young lady from Oxford University, Sanskriti Sravanam, BA, BNBCH. So Sanskriti, you there? Hello? Sanskriti, you there? Hi, thank you very much. So again, I appreciate you. Do you know, everybody, that I just called her last 10 hours to ask her to present here, and she agreed and support, so highly appreciate. So, Sasti, I know that you are very active in education, in anatomy instruction. Please share with us what's happening in Oxford Medical School about your clerkship or your final medical student. Please, Sanskriti.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me, Mr. Aker. So in Oxford at the moment, all the clinical clerkships have stopped. It's only the final years who've been helping out in a clinical setting. All the final years have now graduated to become doctors. So we've been volunteering and getting jobs as foundation doctors, which we'd usually get at the start of August. So we're all in a clinical role at the moment. As for the younger years, they've started volunteering for testing COVID asymptomatic and symptomatic patients. They've been helping out with food delivery and pharmacy deliveries. There's also a lot of teaching going on online from our professors to the students once a week or 2-3 times a week, mainly based in surgery at the moment. Students have also been taking advantage of the vast amount of online resources that Oxford has provided us with, and free online courses from Harvard, from Yale, learning about neuroanatomy, and various other free courses that are available online. And a vast majority of students have gone back to their research that they did previously. They're writing up research reports and helping out in the labs at the moment, and also with paperwork for various departments in the medical school or in the hospitals in general. And a lot of them are also just rediscovering their old hobbies, be that painting, running, their other exercises, and so on, and spending time with their families if they're around them.
Thank you very much. Something else you want to share?
So I thought I would share some tips for the medical students at the moment who've been stuck at home, haven't been able to be in the hospital, how they can still further their medical education. I think one of the best resources is the free online courses that are available, such as I said before, from Harvard, from Yale. There are courses all over the internet that you can find, and you can even get a certificate at the end. So I would highly recommend that. I would also recommend helping out with research where possible. So contact research labs around your medical school or your university and ask if you could help out writing any papers or with any data interpretation. it would be a really good thing to add onto your CV, and also great experience in general. And finally, just keep active, have a structure to your day. It's very disorienting when you don't have classes or clerkships going on. So make sure you have a routine. So a bit of work and a bit of relaxation as well.
I know that you are coordinator of anatomy demonstrator. So would you share 1 minute? Can you demonstrate anatomy online to your clerkship student?
So we haven't been doing that here, but I know that there are lots of videos online with already anatomy being demonstrated. Here we use cadavers and prosected cadavers to teach students. So that's my experience in anatomy at the moment in the University of Oxford. We haven't been able to do that via video link, but I know there are loads of videos online that students could use.
Thank you very much. So my best regard to Simon Cutlip. So I was giving lecture also in Oxford. Next time we will see again after Corona gone. So friends, we will continue from Imperial College of London, because Oxford and Imperial College, they are compete a lot in medical school, right? Okay, so Professor Karim Miran, MD, so I just know him also last night. I got, he is so keen to help, and I would like to thank you very much. So please share, Professor Karim. I know you are endocrinologist, and you are also Deputy Director of Medical Education Unit. That's very, very important role of you to manage clerkship medical students. So I hope to see you next time. Please, Professor Miran.
Okay, look, thank you very much for inviting me and to join your very interesting group. I found these talks so far very interesting. So we have had the same problem that all of you have, and obviously we've moved to a lot of virtual things. We have a 6-year medical course. It's quite a traditional course, so the first 2 years haven't had very much patient exposure, and in fact the first 2 years have weeks of patient exposure that has already happened. Exams have been a problem, and we are testing out some software. In fact, we've used it where the students can do their whole exam on a device at home. Security obviously is a problem, because we have used virtual online exams for some years, where the exam is posted to the student's device, they run the exam, and then the whole marking scheme goes back to a central computer, and they're all marked immediately. So it works very well for multiple choice questions. We've tested it out with very short answer questions where the answer might be 1 or 2 words. So for example, if you ask the question, what is the blood test you would do for a patient who has got pancreatitis? Instead of giving 5 options, you just leave a blank space. And because the answer is 1 word, it can be typed in. And then the way we mark it, because marking 400 students, we've set up a system whereby the students type in the words. So there's maybe 100 questions, and they have 1 or 2 word answers like that. So not multiple choice. And then after the exam is over, I can log in and I can see question 1, how many students have put each answer. So it doesn't have a right answer, or it does have some predefined right answers. But for example, I manually mark it very quickly, because the system says amylase, 175 students wrote this, and I can tick that, and that becomes a right answer immediately. And then maybe lipase is another correct answer, so I can accept that. And then there'll be a small number of wrong answers, and there'll be a small number of misspelt correct answers that I can accept or reject. So we can mark a large number of short answer questions where the answers are 1 or 2 words very quickly. So that has helped, because one of our big problems is going to be exams. We can't use our big exam halls that we use traditionally. Then the clinical years, so we have moved to doing something very similar to that Michael mentioned earlier, which is virtual sessions that we try to make interactive. So we use Teams or Zoom, whichever one the teacher prefers. And we have medical, surgical, and primary care online sessions each week for year 3. This is the most worrying year. So they have done 2 terms already of normal, thank goodness, exposure to patients, and so this final term, where we'd normally be getting ready for their exams, we have done a lot of online teaching and interactive cases. So, for example, there's a online thing called Capsule, where all the students have cases, and there's typical example cases of, and there's a history, and then the line gives them on examination of what the patient has found. For example, consolidation, features of, so it'll say, dullness at the left base, bronchial breathing at left base. Now, of course, in those cases, they read that, and then they have some questions to answer. And then at the end of the week, when they've gone through all those by themselves, and that does drive a lot of self-directed learning, which depends on the students being keen to do that. Then, for example, the medical ones I go through, so I log in, let's say on a Friday at 3 o'clock, and I go through the cases, and the students, very much like this, have a group chat on the side where they ask me questions, and I can unmute them just like this, and they can then ask questions of the whole year. They're all in their homes, and they can ask questions. We have 300 students online. And that is very much like a live lecture, but it's missing out the actual real patient experience. And I'm really concerned, I'm sure you are, that what you learn on the wards is not medicine. It's about the problems a patient has, their anxieties. They're not giving the correct history because of some other social problem. And when the patients get to know the students get to know the patient by being on the ward for a few days, there's this hidden learning that is so valuable that we're missing, and that is our big concern. It's the picking up the non-verbal cues, but actually making a rapport. So, for example, we're not doing obviously any exposure of patients to obstetrics and gynecology, but in that, it's not just learning about eclampsia and all the facts. It's about learning about the patient is in pain and how to try to help them. Those hidden bits of the curriculum where we need to think very hard about, and we have not succeeded in that. The final term of year 3, we are going to, I hope, rerun at the start of year 5 for this group of students, because I feel that they need to have this exposure. So because we have a 1-year BSc where they do science. So the year that I'm most concerned about is the first clinical year. They have done 24 weeks of clinical exposure, but they're missing, I think, a crucial 10 weeks. So we're going to rerun this 10 weeks in a year and a half for this group when they have finished their science year. Year 5, who've already done their full clinical clerkship in year 3, are currently going through things like obstetrics and those subjects, and they have been done them. And we've moved a bit, like Michael was telling you what we're doing at Harvard, our pathology course, which is the one that contains things like microbiology and histopathology, to now. So they're running that online. And a lot of that is fact learning. And it's not ideal, but it's the best that we're doing in the circumstances. I don't know if I can take any other questions from anybody. Your microphone is muted, I think.
Hello, Karim, you listen?
Hello. Yes.
Okay, you finished?
Yes, I have finished. Thank you.
I have one question. You say that you make an online exam. How do you secure the online exam? Somebody not probably decided whatever. How do you secure? Number 2 is, could you also make like an exam for like a skill labs or mini CX or ski? Please, 1 minute answer.
Okay, so we use this exact technology normally for our OSCEs, where the examiners are on the device and mark them. So we haven't been able to do that because the patient and the students are not together. So an OSCE is a problem for us at the moment, and we have to delay all these things until we hope we have lockdown release and a vaccine or something. So we have not been successful in doing that. The online exam does, there is a security problem, you're correct. So we have used questions that are formative, if that makes sense, rather than summative exams, because you're right, we can't secure it. So we know it's open book. And so we say, we know that you might be exposed to other people, but the students want to practice using the technology. We will have a summative exam that is correct and proper when we're able to. There's a suggestion that we can bring the students into very large halls with the correct social distancing. They will have their devices, their own devices. They don't use our devices. They'll bring their own device, and then we can push the exam out to their device and then pull it back in. That's a plan for the future.
Thank you very much. Very useful information, and I hope if another floor will give a question to you, you don't mind to email you, yeah?
Yes.
My best to get to Ramesh. He is
Yes.
in the same group with me in the Work Society as Anatomy Committee.
Yes.
Okay, now we go to Cambridge. Mr. Thomas Santarius from Cambridge, he is a neurosurgeon, and he is, I think, one of the most academic neurosurgeons. He is so keen and so nice helping us, always, anytime, and even he just recovered from COVID, and also his wife still unhealthy, but he's still willing to do education and helping us. I appreciate very much. Please, Tom, from Cambridge University.
Thank you very much, Professor Eka. It's a pleasure to be part of this meeting. And it's probably the first time that I have been connected to Jakarta virtually that I can say good morning. And it's good morning for most of the panelists. To perfectly understand, I don't want to take everybody's time because a lot of it's been covered already, and by Dr. Catalino, Professor Miram, as well as Dr. Sravanam, and I would like to congratulate her to graduating recently. And in fact, for the final year medical students, things have been relatively easy, because by the time, well, first of all, I would say that as on the 3 previous institutions, there are no clinical and medical students in the hospital. The clerkships and so on have ceased for the reasons that have been mentioned earlier. And as Dr. Sravanam said, the requirements for final year medical students have pretty much been fulfilled already, and that's why they were allowed to graduate. And as in Oxford and probably in many other places, the graduated medical students now, fresh doctors, have been starting to work as a foundation doctor. Foundation doctors, for those who don't know the UK system, as the name says, is kind of junior doctor, very junior doctor level, where they rotate through various medical and surgical specialties to acquire broad clinical foundation. And of course, the problem is greater with the early and middle clinical years, and as there's no direct contact with patients, all the teaching is done virtually, and essentially it is done as lectures, seminars, and small group teachings. For those who don't know the UK system, lots of medical schools, including Cambridge, have small group teaching, which is kind of vital to go into details and help students digest and process what they've heard at lectures. And so this continues as normal. So the problem, which has been already discussed, really is about exams, and this is work in progress. There's lots of work happening at national level, as I'm sure Professor Miram will be able to say, not only in developing resources that could be shared, and there are some tremendous resources being uncovered throughout the countries. There are individuals and institutions who have a very unique collection of cases. So these are being worked up and prepared, and probably will be made available nationally. And also there are efforts being made to prepare exam systems. Of course, the security is the ultimate sort of issue, and various AI companies have been involved in making this happen. I've spoken to Professor Ganel, who's another endocrinologist, and one of the deans of our medical school about this yesterday, who's actually in charge of the assessment so nationally. And I think the issues will be solved, I think, in due course fairly soon. So although this seems to be one of the main obstacles, it will be solved. And of course, the difficulties which we have discussed was discussed pretty much by every panelist, is the direct contact with patients. Of course, there is an art to be able to take proper history and elicit all the clinical signs and interpret them, because of course when we read textbooks, when we hear lectures, we are sort of learning about the most common symptoms and signs. We even have certain probabilities attributed to them. We have lists with most common at the beginning and less common further down the line, but it's quite another story how when we see a patient and say, actually, is that real, is it not, is it just by the way, is it caused by pain? And often in a real patient we have several levels of symptoms and perhaps several conditions that can influence the final look of a particular symptom. So, however, I'll go to the first speaker, Dr. Catalino, and say, yes, medical students are Bayesian systems. They're very intelligent systems. And I strongly believe that COVID is not going to be here forever. So I think we need to take advantage of what we have and fill the databases with cases, learn basic principles, so that when we release medical students on to the patients on the wards, they will be able to then fine-train their databases and systems so that they can become great physicians, and I'm sure they will.
Tom, 2 minutes more.
Well, to be honest, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I could dive into any area deeper and deeper. I think I just let other speakers having slightly more time.
Thank you very much, Tom. So get well soon, and regard to your wife, also get well soon. So I miss very much to come to Cambridge again and give a 3D lecture with you for Cambridge. I hope that Corona gone soon, then I can come Cambridge again, Tom. Stay healthy, Tom.
Thank you very much, Eka.
Thank you.
Same to you and every panelist.
Thank you so much. So we're going now to Stanford University from San Francisco, United States. I have Budi Weriawan. So Budi, number one is, we're proud of you. You are Indonesian pediatric critical care doctor who work in Stanford. Not, are you still Indonesian or American?
I'm American actually, so.
It's okay, don't worry. But your heart is half in Indonesia, right?
Well, actually, before this COVID hit, I was supposed to fly back home to visit my family and my mother, and had to cancel last minute the flight because of the COVID. And certainly this is not an easy time for everyone. Here in San Francisco, we were a little bit earlier in terms of closing down and putting a shelter in place. If you compare city by city throughout the United States, I mean, we could say that we were a bit lucky in the sense of that our healthcare system have not been overwhelmed. In fact, that I would have to say that even in our adult as well as our children hospital, the patients number have decreased significantly. Our emergency room, for example, has seen about 50% less of patients. I think it has to do with the fact that people are afraid to come to the emergency room because of they're afraid to get exposed into the COVID. There were even news in the televisions recently that some people who has had a symptom of a myocardial infarctions, then they came last minute to the emergency room with chest pain. So this is something concerning, and I think that's part of the public announcements that the university decided to make to convince people that there are if you have other problems, you have to come to the hospital. So having said that, I think like everyone else, I think we are dealing with the same issue with the medical education. Especially the past 2 months since the state of California decided to put something what we call shelter in place at the beginning of March. So a lot of company in here in the Bay Area, they decided to go online and ask the worker to start working from home even before the announcement from the governor. And the university actually closed down at the beginning of March and sent every students back to their families. And that put us in the position scrambling, trying to figure out like what to do. What I'm gonna try to show you is actually some of the websites that that we had in place even before the COVID. I think they helped somewhat in terms of how to educate these medical students. And again, this I'm just speaking and I'm representing only from the Department of Pediatrics. I cannot say much about the rest of the medical schools. We have large children's hospital, so that is our mission. So let me just go start putting the slide. So if you look at the, I think it's similar like what Michael said. I think the United States medical system is pretty much, if you look at the core curriculum for what we call a clerkship, usually happens in the third year of medical school. And then you have something what we call a sub-internship, or what the US students call a sub-I. And in Stanford, we call it Pediatrics 300A and Pediatrics 330A. So the 300A is the core curriculum in introductions into the pediatrics world. And unfortunately, there is, if you can click here and open up the link, and that will open up. But unfortunately, this is all password protected, and I cannot share it. I will try to. I make some pictures of it. So, for example, if you click off the 300A, for example, that would give you sort of like the overview what is the pediatric 300A, what we call a pediatric clerkships at Stanford University. And these are my colleagues who are leading the clerkship program. And then if you look at the left side, for example, there is syllabus and all the assignments, the schedule, the resources. So we are a bit lucky in the term of we started a bit early. And on the right side, if you can take a look, I think you can find all kind of link that will allow the students to either pick up the assignments by the computer or interact with the professor or interact with their students, colleagues, and stuff like that. So if you go to the syllabus, obviously, I mean, this is just an overview of what our missions to teach the medical students, starting from the patient's care, the professionalism, and so on and so on. I'm not going to go into detail on that. I'm just trying to show it, like how we're gonna take this core overview of the educations or missions that we have to fulfill and trying to use several different venues. So, and if you go back and one of that click that you do, you will be connected to what we call a pediatric residency and the clerkship. So, and then here you will have a lot of links that would help us interacting with the students. So you can click, for example, to Zoom link. So this is how we don't, because of the COVID, we don't do bedside round anymore. So we do everything throughout the Zoom link. After we do the morning reports and the round and stuff like that, there will be only one physician with one resident, and maybe one of the students, usually the sub-I, will go into the room and examine the patient. So that way, you're not going to expose everyone or a big groups of physicians and students to patients, or trying to spread the disease. So, and then you can see also there are several different links. You can see the education schedule in the afternoon. That's for example. So and if you want to chat and if you want to interact with each other, there is a way we can text message because of the pediatrics education doesn't only happen in the children's hospital. For example, there is several other hospitals that does fulfill the mission of the education. So we are allowing ourselves just trying to connect with each other. Again, unfortunately, some of this link is password protected. But if someone is willing or wants to get some information, I might be able to access it. And I will be able to share some of them. I might not be able to share every one of them. So
3 minutes, yeah.
And again, this is just the other format of the platform that we created. Obviously, it's we are very biased and sponsored by Apple, probably, as you can see. And this is how again we are trying to reach with each other and trying to educate our students. So the last one that I would like to show you is actually. So these are an example of what we trying to create it actually as part of the theoretical lecture of during of each rotations. I mean, you can take a look. I mean, there is a general resources. There is each individual division or subdivisions, and each of them has linked with either a library or other resources within Stanford or other university that we can access. Some of them are linked to Zoom. Some of them linked to national database like NIH and stuff like that will allow us to get access to the to the other lecture. So if you click to one of them, for example, this is my area. This is Learn PICU. This will give us some ways to interact with the students using the videos, using case descriptions. This is another link that's not necessarily from the Stanford, but it's all it has to do with the emergency pediatric cases. There are other Stanford created links, such as like in this case, like newborn exam, and if you click to this link here, that will allow you to get some interaction of the video and stuff like that. So some of them, like I said, like I would, like this Excel sheet, I will be glad to share it with everyone, so everyone can click and reach into that link. And lastly, this is a great work that was initiated by our residents. Basically all the data about the COVID, starting from the clinical pictures, how we, how COVID was spread, how we take care of COVIDs on the ventilations, on ECMO, how we intubate the patients with COVIDs, and this is all also that's something that I can share with everyone who's interested.
Okay, Budi. Hello, Budi.
Yes, I'm here. That's all.
Thank you very much. Come to Indonesia and we can enjoy nasi padang.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, so we're going to Singapore from National University of Singapore. We have here Professor Lau Tang Ching. So he is a rheumatologist. He is very young, Vice Dean of NUS, and also so dynamic young guys. So Tang Ching, before you start, I've been in your hospital when we make a MOU with NUS, and I understand you have a very, very good facility, very good strategy. You have everything against the COVID-19, but what I listen, more and more positive COVID-19 in Singapore is surprise, right? Please say to your minister, probably you're doing too many rapid tests. So the more you do many rapid tests, the more you get positive. Don't do that, then you're scary of you. Okay, Tang Ching, go ahead.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? I hope so. Yeah. So thank you very much, Professor Eka, for this opportunity to share with you the NUS Yong Loo School of Medicine experience. And I really also thank all our colleagues from different parts of the world for sharing your views, and I've learned a lot. So we did a survey of our students about how their learning may be affected by COVID-19. And not surprisingly, most of them are actually still very determined to continue their education, and they didn't regret coming into medicine. But for the students, what they are more concerned about is whether they can be introduced back into the clinical environment in a safe way, because they don't want to bring the virus back to their family. And also for some of them, they also feel that they are worried about imposing on the clinical healthcare workers, because they are already so busy with COVID-19 patients, and whether their learning will affect the work of the healthcare providers. So whatever we try to do to reintroduce the students back into the clinical environment, we have to take into account of all these concerns. And so although we have stopped the clinical attachment in February and March, but as of April, May, and June onwards, we are reintroducing the students from the penultimate year and gradually more to the year 3 and year 4 students as well. And the strategy of doing so is that we actually have some of the mitigation measures and precautionary measures put in place. For example, the need for self-temperature monitoring and travel advisory, the need to observe all the quarantine orders if the students are exposed before, the need to even have a trace together app, for example, that will allow the students to keep track of who they have come into contact with using a Bluetooth technology, so that in case we need to do contact tracing, it will be facilitated. And of course, the students have to keep a log of the patients that they have seen and so on and so forth. And very importantly, the students are also adequately trained with personal protection equipment so that they are really safe, even if they have to be exposed to the COVID-19 patients. And we also want to ensure that the students are reduced in terms of the numbers that are posted back into the clinical environment. So what we did was we have a slightly more compressed clinical curriculum. In other words, instead of the usual duration of exposure in the clinical environment, you will have half that duration, so that the other half will be spent on campus doing clinical training as well. And because of that, we actually can reduce the number of students posted back into the wards. And this seems to be a good way, because then the healthcare tutors will not feel burdened by so many students around. The students will have better supervision as well. And so these are some of the risk mitigation, for example. Not only they are in smaller groups back into the wards, they also will have to practice strict physical distancing. They will also have to observe certain requirements, such as a washout period and cohorting within the hospital, so that they do not have a chance of spreading the virus around too readily. And we also have limited some of the wards and spaces in the hospital as high-risk areas, and they should not go there. So these are the ways that we try to reassure our students and our tutors that the students can be reintroduced back into the clinical environment in a safe way. And this is just one of the strategy that we try to adopt. For example, each posting will now have half the duration of clinical training, and they therefore in each hospitals will have half the original number of students at any one time. They will stay in the one hospital throughout the rotation and only in a designated area, so that cross-contamination of the students to other healthcare providers will be minimized. And where possible, we will have a 2 weeks washout period when they are switching from one hospital to another. And in addition, we actually work with the crack sheet directors to really focus on what is essential when the students are back in the wards. For example, as mentioned by many of you, the need to develop that communication skills to build rapport with our patients, because that cannot be done well with just simulated patients alone. And also the concept of holistic care of patients, to explore their goals of care, ideas, concerns, and expectations, because this is again valuable learning for our patients and students. And of course, physical examination technique with real patients, clinical reasoning with real patients, dealing with uncertainty with real patients, and that kind of Bayesian reasoning that's required as we modify our diagnosis, as we pick up new information along the way throughout the care journey. And of course, procedural skills with real patients, and also learning skills associated with working in the ward, such as the use of electronic medical record, etc. And very importantly, also the interprofessional education competencies on how to work with the nurses, allied health, and other professions within the ward. So we'll try to focus on these aspects as much as possible during their clinical ward attachment, so that during their campus-based learning that is clinically orientated, we will focus on the other skill sets. And so for the campus-based learning, we try to use standardized patients so that they can still practice the art of history taking and physical examination, and also some interpretation of test results and so on. We also experimented with using real patients and Zoom-based, so that they can interact with the patients remotely and continue to learn how to take history and interact with real patients. But of course, the disadvantage is that we cannot have the haptics in terms of training them in such a situation. And we also want to use case-based discussion ward round with real patients in the ward. So we try to see whether the very same data that's available for real patients can be remotely accessed, so that the students can still do a ward round remotely, even though they are not physically in the ward. And of course, we, like many of you, will use online case-based discussion and use of virtual patients to enhance the campus-based learning. And here is just an example of how we use the Zoom-based platform to have the tutor as well as the simulated patients and different students being logged in from different sites to still have some kind of simulated learning using standardized patient. And actually, the feedback from the students have been very good, because they still do have the chance to get consultation and group discussion after the encounter with the standardized patient. And here I just want to show an example of a recording of what we do in terms of learning online. So this is just one of the learning management system that we use. One of the good things that happened during COVID-19 was we actually have more time now. So some of the important topics that we have always wanted to teach our students could now be learned. So for example, one of the topic was traditional Chinese medicine, how we can interact with maybe Western medicine. And so here I just have a recording of Zoom-based learning. And so you can see that the students are logging on, although their social etiquette wasn't very good, they're actually eating fried chicken. And we try to interact with the students. Yeah, so just an example of using Zoom-based to still have an interactive discussion with the students. And here is another website that we felt is quite helpful. I'd like to share with you all. So this is called PathWeb. So it's actually available for anyone to log on. So a lot of our pathology and other case discussions based on pathology specimens are actually online. And this has been useful for our students to learn as well. And what I think very importantly is the personal protection equipment training. So we have some online pre-reading plus hands-on practical training. And here is just an example of how they are taught how to do their hand washing, their full PPE use. And we're also teaching them how to do nasal swab and specimen preparation in case the students are activated to help out in the community to do nasal swab. And interestingly, we also managed to conduct clinical examination using standardized patient and observing all the physical distancing measures are in place. So you can see that the students are actually wearing masks. The standardized patients are also wearing masks. And actually, we also limited the congregation of examiners by giving them individual bento so that they don't have to come together anymore. So with that, actually, we managed to conduct a final year exam in March. And in fact, even in May, we're doing another final year exam for those who didn't make it or they missed the exam because they're not well. And I think this is something that's still feasible. And I'd like to share also that for online examination, we managed to use an online exam system plus Zoom proctoring so that the students are observed when they are doing the exams. And although there are certain challenges, but we managed to overcome some of those, and it was quite successfully done for our year one students. And I also want to share that actually because the students now have more time when they are, because many of them were supposed to go on to their elective during their March, April, and May period. So they cannot go back into the clinical environment. Yeah, and so what we did was we actually introduced pathway programs. And these are some of the examples of the pathways like health informatics, inquiry and thinking, health and humanities, and so on. So for 10 weeks, they actually are exposed to some of this concept and they actually do projects that are relevant in these areas. And our feeling is that actually this is a good opportunity for the medical students to be exposed to knowledge and sciences, which actually allow them to think more laterally in terms of problem-solving skills that are related to healthcare problems. And here I'd like to just also suggest that in case any of you are free tomorrow, we do have a presentation online for our our pathway programs. So any of you who are interested can log on and observe some of the cases or some of the projects that are going to be presented by our students. And many of the things that I've shared actually is captured in this MedPub article, Response and Lesson Learned about the COVID-19 crisis by the School of Medicine. So again, you can refer to this and hopefully continue to give us feedback on how we can do better as well. So with that, I thank you for the time. Yeah.
Thank you, Tang Ching.
And I will welcome any questions.
I hope Singapore soon also recover, that we can visit each other. Thank you very much, Tang Ching.
Definitely. I look forward to that.
My regard to your dean. He is so busy. Yeah? Okay, so we're going now to Jakarta. So I would like to invite Professor Arifaria gastroenterologist. He is not only Dean of University of Indonesia, but he is a public figure that give so many opinions to public, to government, about how to fight against COVID-19. Professor Ari, please.
Okay, thank you, Professor Eka. So can you hear me?
Yeah, very good.
Yes, Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for Professor Eka and also from Professor Mudu to invite me to talk in this important seminars, I think. And also I would like to offer my warmest welcome to our colleagues, especially for Dr. Tang from NUS. We have met before for a couple times. And also some speakers from UK, US, and also other places. So we know that it is hard for us about the global COVID-19. And you know that the WHO advised us to practice social distancing. So that's why our clinic student, also pre-clinic student, back home, and then we do study from home. Okay, you can slide, please, the next slide, please. So you can see our slide here. Professor Eka? Professor Eka, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we are listening.
Okay. Yeah. So next slide, please.
Okay, go ahead, Prof. Ari.
Okay, next slide. Okay, thank you. So, so here I want to show you about the open source module about the COVID-19 pandemic. In March, our medical education unit from Faculty of Medicine has published what we call that a supervised open source module about the COVID-19 pandemic. So this module purpose is to provide knowledge for medical students and also help professional about the COVID-19 pandemic. So because you know that the many students also enthusiasts from this module, so I will upgrade this module not only for the student but also from the community and other health workers. Okay, and yes, how about the education? This is the main of our seminar here, especially for the clerks. We know that before we do lecture face-to-face and also hands-on skill training with property and also patient assessment and evaluations. And this COVID area, so we changed everything full online, a lecture conducted via video conference, and also for skill training using educational video and also video conference. How about the assessment or evaluation? This is a little bit tricky for us, but we try to do the patient assessment and evaluation, especially for specialists and subspecialists only. How about for student evaluation or exam for the clerkship student? You know, we have a written test before and also objective structure clinical examination, OSCE, and also we have case-based discussions taken from patients assessed by the student. Now we change everything. We do the computer-based online tests, and also we perform OSCE via video conference, and we make some online quiz and discussions based on patient in case report. Yes, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so in these pictures, I saw that some that our activity, you know, when we perform, I mean the teachers show about the case illustrations, and then discussion around the student, and also here we saw that how that the teachers give lecture, And also here, one of quiz evaluations. We saw the pictures, especially here from skin problems, so it's easy for everybody to know about the disease. And here we see about some other quiz, and then we can see here about the OSCE in forensic and medical legal rotations. So every student can use other things from their home, and then the lecturer in the other place to show how to perform the forensic surgery or something like that. And yes, we have make an evaluation for the student as well about how it is okay with them with online something like this. And then we see that from our student, that the implemented method of long distance learning is not so different from face-to-face learning, and that they are getting the same value of educations. Meanwhile, for student evaluation with exams. Yes, here I want to make some information as well. I mean that our students also to be volunteers to help doctors, like to support some nutrition, and also to prepare what we call that the PPI for health workers. So beside busy in the online study, they also to be volunteers in to help doctors, especially to give the nutrition and also to prepare PPI for health worker. So this is the information from me. I think we can discuss later. Thank you, Professor Eka.
If somebody want to ask you personally, we can do email for you. Yeah, it's very, very useful and it's a great share for us. Okay, so balas sini dong, kameranya kok kasih. Mana ini nggak ada. So, dear friends, before we go to Yogyakarta, kameranya ke sini. Before we go to Yogyakarta, so I remember that many smart people in the world told maybe virus will change everything, including our activities in the Congress, right? So if I see in the picture, I think that it's very bright, very beautiful, maybe 95% similar the real offline Congress. And you know that if this is offline Congress, World Congress costs $1 million. And this is very much less costly. Maybe I think that maybe will change. The difference is we cannot gather, we cannot chat together, but quality of scientific, I believe, is similar. Okay, so maybe we need to change our mind in the future, how to go online. Okay, we are going to University Gajah Mada, Yogyakarta. I would like to invite Professor Opa and Professor Ganders. So these are two ladies hero from Jawa. So in Jawa legend we got Sri Kandi. Okay, so we have two professors, lady from Gajah Mada, doing really strong. Please, Professor Ganders and Opa, to share.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor Eka. This is too much introduction. Professor Ova, would you like to start with a brief introduction?
Okay, thank you very much. How are you, everyone?
Very good. So, you know, this is typical Jogja language, very slow and very nice.
Greetings from Yogyakarta. Yes, thank you very much, Prof. Eka, for giving us opportunity for sharing how is the activities of our clerkship students during this COVID pandemic. And we have many innovatives because we are in the, we call it in the nowhere we can go. So we have create many activities that we never done before. So I think Professor Gandes will explain in more detail about some activities that we have so far.
Yeah.
Please, Professor Gandes.
Yes, okay, thank you, Professor Ova. So actually, I follow what Professor Eka suggested, no theory at all. So start from 14th of March, there is a decree and at university level that we have to be prepared with COVID-19. And then that day, the similar day, we organize a coordination with all the clinical team, and all of us agreed to continue the clinical teaching. So by 15th of March, a day after the decree of the rectors, the dean also announced and decided that clerkship and residency training are continued and should be adapted. And then it should be rescheduled to avoid overtired, and every department should evaluate its teaching hospital, especially regarding the safety and the level of supervision. So if the department think that it is necessary to pull up the student, it can be pulled up. But if the department consider that it is still okay to be continued at the teaching hospital, it can be continued. So the announcement from the dean, we use it as a backbone to provide learning activities for clerkship. So after the dean declare about that, we have a meeting with the team, and then the team try to make adaptation. So basically at a clerkship, the activity that we had before pandemic is, I think it's quite similar with others, bedside teaching, clinical tutorial, case reflection, case discussion, and many form of assessment. Then the team tried to make guidance how to adapt each activities during the pandemic. So at 18th of March 2020, the guidance already there. Every Friday, every week, we have a meeting between the study, between all the team from every department with the head of the study program. And then we try to see the feasibility, what kind of adjustment we need, and so on. So I would like to share and try to divide into two times framework. First is before from 16th of March until 16th of April. Basically, several rotations outside Sarjito Hospital will remain continued. Several rotations still have learning activities as before COVID-19 pandemic, but in safe zone and reducing frequency. So for example, before the pandemic, we have a regulation that clinical tutorial should be done twice a week, and bedside teaching at least 1 a week, case reflection at least 1 a week, and so on. And before this condition, some of the several rotation reduce the frequency and provide with different format. Several rotation at that time also started to the adaptation that we propose. For synchronous meeting, they use WebEx, Zoom, MS Team, and so on. For asynchronous meeting, we have what we call as GAMEL at faculty level and ELO at university level. We also ask each department to write down what kind of activity that can be done, can be conducted during that time, every department. Then 17th on April until 5th of May, because of the progression of the COVID and because of the regulation at university as well, the rotation outside Sarjito Hospital were put totally to Sarjito Hospital. Most of the rotation have moved to online platform using the guidance that we provide earlier. There is still rotation that try to use a mixed approach. So for example, taking cases at a hospital, at a safe zone, but then continue to online supervision. And there's also written report regarding the activity. This is just few examples how the online case discussion done. So this is the example from surgery as well as from ophthalmology department. There are many other examples. And then if you see here, there is interactive case management using application that developed by one of our lecturers in forensic. So basically there is a case, and then using that application, the lecturers, the clinical supervisor give or prompt some question. If you find that one, what should you ask? Then the student try to answer. Then the supervisor give further data, and then the student answer, and so on until the management of the cases ended. And this is example of the skill demonstration. So the teachers, the supervisors demonstrate with simulated patient, and then the student, it is videotape, and then the student try to follow using Zoom from home. And this is the other example. One of the department also try to show adaptation. For example, this is when they have to do mini CX. So they don't go to the patient, but the student was asked to practice physical examination, anamnesis to friend or roommate or family. And then connected with Zoom, the lecturers observe and then giving additional necessary information. This is the example that's done by anesthesia department, how to drill procedural skills. And actually there is a video here, how one of the online discussion is done. I want to skip it just to show
minutes, ya.
Okay.
Nanti masuk sini waktu Andri ngomong terakhir penutup.
Yeah. So for everybody who want to see the full version of the video, we'll be happy to share. Then the next that we're going to do is, because we already have evaluated the program at the department level, but we think it's not enough. So we want to do survey at individual level of the student to see the achievement of individual competency. So hopefully it can be done on this month. And based on the survey, we're going to design a program to fill up deficiency that we found in the survey. So it can be as a boosting program for the student to be confident regarding their competency competency achievement. We also have a meeting with the student to hear from them what is the weaknesses, what is the good side they found, and try to improve, try to list what the student concern with the core team and try to improve. So this is basically the importance of having routine coordination 1 a week with the representative from each department. We call it as a coordinator of profession every Friday. So we try to make adjustment from that. Some of the department, like what already shared by previous speakers, still using OSCE as well, but COVID-19 protocol were applied. So temperature measurement, hand washing, so, physical distance, and so on, maintained. So the OSCE still can be done. And also for multiple choice questions, some department use that one, and also using administrative staff Zoom to see whether there is a cheating or not, something like that. So that's what basically we did. It's far from ideal, but we need to continue. We need to try to find a way and talk to the student what they need and what should be improved. And hopefully the pandemic will over very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. Ova and Prof. Ganesh. Please send me kudak ya. Missing very much. So we're going to Melbourne University. So with us is Professor Steve Trumler. So he is the very senior and very experienced chairman of the Medical Education Unit of Melbourne Uni. So Steve, thank you very much. You always support us, and you know that we send our students to Melbourne Uni following the neuroscience block, and it was so beautiful. I hope that you always support us. Please, Steve.
Thank you, Professor Eka, and it's good to see so many colleagues from Indonesian universities here. I also wanted to send my good wishes to you all. We've been very lucky in this country for the way our pandemic's been controlled, and I send my good wishes to those of you who have had family, friends and colleagues become very sick, if not die from the disease. So I just wanted to speak about some of the ways we've been approaching the pandemic in Melbourne. I thought I would go way beyond my limits of technical competence and see if I could project behind me what I wanted to talk about rather than sharing a screen. The biggest thing that's worked for us is this effective pandemic suppression, being an island nation with politicians who learnt from our tragic bushfires that you listen to scientists when they tell you what needs to happen. We've actually come through it thus far fairly well. So that's helped us. We as a university did decide to cease all clinical placements in March because they were becoming difficult to sustain and our clinical teachers were busy preparing for the pandemic. So that was a decision that was taken. The next point I wanted to make is that we had to make bold decisions. If there ever is a time for making a bold decision within your university, it was now. We rearranged our course. We're lucky being in the Southern Hemisphere. Our year obviously graduates students in December. So in March, April, May, we don't have students close to graduation. We're also lucky that we have a research semester in our final year. And we've been able to swap around our research semester and a clinical semester so that a large number of our students are doing their research right now and into the second half of this year, so they don't need clinical placements. If you have an opportunity to make structural rearrangements, I can certainly recommend it because it means that the students are progressing through their research training, for example, rather than having to worry about clinical placements which are in short supply. So that was a major strategy for us, and the university was uncharacteristically cooperative with these course changes, recognising the importance of them. We've also used this time of having no students in placement to front load the online content, and everybody's been talking about the importance of the online learning that you've put in place. We've found our students absolutely love it. Now, obviously they're missing their patient contact, but it actually plays to the millennial preferences in many ways to have online learning. And the thing that surprised me is our teachers are loving it as well. We've been wanting to move more online for a number of years, but the resistance has been significant. To have to do it means we've actually managed to gain quite some ground in bringing even some of our more resistant teachers online. We've actually found that the students are asking many more questions. They're moderating each other's questions. The engagement is a lot better. You can keep a watch on a small group much better online than you can when you're sitting around in a circle. So I'm not promoting it as the solution to medical education, but I think this has actually helped us think very hard about what traditional forms of teaching are actually better done online. It's also made our colleagues share their resources so that all our students have access to the same resources. One activity that occurred quite early in Australia is a mapping of the competencies for graduation. Again, this is work that has been attempted many times in the past, but there was never a good reason for completing it. All the medical schools came together and cooperated in a way I've never seen before to actually figure out just what it is that a student needs to be able to demonstrate before you can safely let them graduate from medical school or a training program, whatever it is. So this is work that's long overdue. That document's due to be released next week, and I will certainly forward it via this group so that if you're interested in what we in Australia have now set as the minimum standard for safe graduation from a medical school, you're very welcome to look at that. There's nothing there that will surprise you. What probably surprises you is we didn't get it down on paper beforehand. One guiding principle for us has been equity in placements. I know a number of medical schools in this country have struggled to keep students in placement, even though it's been patchy and not everybody's had the same opportunity. We've had to decide that no grades this semester because we cannot trust the reliability of those assessments or their validity, their accuracy. So no grades, and also if one student can't be in placement, no student can be in placement until we're confident of there being an adequate supply. I disappeared from this meeting for half an hour to meet with our final year students to announce that they're going back into placement on the 1st of June to complete their training. And we've completely redesigned that final semester so that there's a rolling, staggered system of trainee internships, which means that every student will get a minimum of 8 weeks. We want to give them 12 weeks, but the best we can guarantee is 8 weeks, which we've judged as the minimum for final competence to graduate as doctors. So that's been a principle that we've applied across our course. The next point is that senior students first. Because we've got a cohort that's due to graduate at the end of this year, they get first go at what placements we can now make available. The first year students obviously ought to be in clinical placements because it's exciting to pretend to be a doctor. That's not important, I'm afraid. What is important is that we use every possible clinical moment to make our senior students competent, and then our penultimate group, the students in the third year of our fourth year program, so that they're prepared for graduation the following year. So that's been a principle we've had to ask all our students to adhere to, that those closest to graduation get first go. The next thing is meaningful work integrated placements. So they're not going back just to sit in the cafeteria and drink coffee. They're going back to actually do meaningful work as trainee interns so that they actually rehearse the role and every moment counts. The simulation and online. Now, one thing that was discussed before I had to leave was the issue of remote exams and how you secure those. That's been a major focus for us. My colleague Anna Ryan has developed a whole program in academic integrity, and every one of our students has had to do a quick training program and examination in academic integrity and what that means. We've gone very strong on the fact that if you cheat in an online exam, you're not just cheating the examiner, you're cheating your future patients, because if you're not ready to graduate, to cheat is actually a patient safety compromise. So that's been very important. The program that we're using is called Exam Soft, and that has a component within it called Exemplify. And when you're doing an online exam, it basically takes over the student's computer, shuts down everything but delivering the examination for the period of time. The students are remotely monitored and recorded, and artificial intelligence watches what they do. If there's an unusual thing, it then triggers an incident that a human being reviews. I don't know if anybody else has talked about this while I was away, but I find it fascinating. If a cat jumps up on the desk, the human sees that and says that's not an incident. The thing we're struggling with most is students and their bladders and bowels. It seems that they all need to go to the toilet during a remote proctored exam. That triggers an incident that then needs to be manually reviewed. So we're suggesting to them they sit down with their minds open and their bladders empty unless they want to be questioned about what they were doing for that time. So my final point then is, you can't see it there because I didn't do it properly, but it says to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. What I said to my students just a moment ago was, we do not control the virus. It does what it wants. Australia, as I say, has been very successful in suppressing the pandemic. We've had less than 100 deaths in this country, but we don't know what's going to happen now that the population's clamoring to be released from isolation. And as many students as possible, we want to get through placements before things get bad again, which could definitely happen. So thank you for the opportunity. Lovely to see colleagues again. Yes, please.
3 minutes, please. 3 minutes more.
I'm sorry, what was 3 minutes more?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, so I can certainly talk further about anything people want me to talk about in response to questions, but really at the moment we are front loading as much online content as we can, and we're mapping the curriculum so that as placements become re-available, we can check students off on various things. One thing we've realized is that, to be honest, a physical examination OSCE isn't really necessary. What it's proving is the student can simulate or replicate the movement of hands. For me, the breakthrough moment was a couple of years ago when I was examining a student on an abdominal OSCE, and they laid the patient down the wrong way, and then percussed, measured and reported the hepatic dimensions and the splenic dimensions on the wrong side. That patient did not have situs inversus. What it meant is the students could have got 4 marks in what they were doing with their hands and 0 marks what they were doing with their head. So again, this pandemic's making us ask questions about what does a physical exam OSCE really prove? And are there better ways of doing that with a mini CX or other work-based assessment once we're back in the real world?
Thank you very much, Steve.
Pleasure, Eka. I hope you like the shirt.
Always continue to work together with us, with the all Indonesian medical school. We need your assistance. Okay, so we go to University Atmajaya, Jakarta. I want to invite Dr. Yuda Turana. He is a neurologist and he is the Dean of Atmajaya University. And I know, Pak Yuda, that you have a very beautiful program for COAS, for clerkship while they are at home. Please, Pak Yuda. Hello, Pak Yuda, you there?
Okay. Thank you for Prof. Eka for nice introduction, and also great honor also for Atmajaya can join to this wonderful meeting. Maybe the slide. So I think the same experience with the other faculty at Atmajaya on mid of March, we removed the student from direct patient care within days, and school were loading course materials online, and on March 30 that Atmajaya start the regular online program. And we have like the 2 weeks program and focus just only on knowledge, and hope after the pandemic we focus on psychomotor. And because we realize that medical training is hands-on activity, and student I think in these 2 weeks we'll have the already learn the content, and hope after the pandemic we have like the as many patients as possible once they get back in the campus. So we have like the platform online program with Teams, Microsoft, and also the Zooms, but the university I think suggests to use the Teams Microsoft, because I think it's more
the camera. Yeah.
Oh,
you
okay.
like more
Sorry. Okay.
Okay, you like
And
more
yeah, and we suggest use the Teams Microsoft, because very important to is more easy for the dean and the vice dean to evaluate all departments. If we use the same platform online learning. And all the students, we suggest to use and to install about the application of Microsoft Teams. And I think with the IT support, if have the trouble when they connect to the program. And the instructor usually uploading is up to the instructor, like usually the previously type lectures or recording the new ones. And I think the same with the Gajah Mada, like the step-by-step videos on skills. And also, we suggest the student to see the video from the YouTube, and also I think lucky for us now, a lot of webinar and online lecture from the academic societies. Actually, in my presentation, I don't know, you can see the picture about the teams. The teams like in the Microsoft Teams, we have like the several channels. In every department have like the specific channels, and if in every channels, usually the vice dean or the dean follow and evaluate the channels, and every 2 weeks we evaluate the program. And usually in every department sends the schedule of the online meeting every day. And usually the dean and the vice dean and also the head of the program study usually follow randomly in every clinic department. And yeah. Okay, maybe the share about the slide about the teams, the picture of our this is the script in our teams in the example in the neurology department. Usually we have like the everyday schedules, like between just only 2 hours for discussion usually, but the student must prepare by themselves, like before the meeting, like must read the books or must read the source from the YouTube and the other source that we decide before. And in the meeting, usually in 2 hours meeting, we just only discuss what the question from the student and discuss the wrapping all the things of the topic. And I don't know, I cannot see my presentation, but in my presentation also I show about the schedule and also the program. Maybe after the meeting, I will share also. I think it's very happy to share about our experience, my PowerPoint. In that PowerPoint, I show about the schedules. One example, the teams in the neurology department, and there's also the picture about how we communicate with the student. Like in this example, like if the topic with dementia, before we have the online meeting, usually I only trigger by 2 questions. What do you think about the meaning of the comprehensive treatment and dementia? Something like that. Based on the question, the student usually must see the video first. And after that, we schedule just only 2 hours for discuss about that video and about all the important things, how to take care of the dementia, something like that. So that's it, my experience in Atmajaya. So we have like 2 weeks program in the minor department and major department the same week, just only 2 weeks, and hope after the COVID pandemic and we can like to continue with the clinic rotation as usual again. Thank you, Prof. Eka. Yeah.
Thank you, and sorry for missing your presentation. Next time you have to.
Yeah, it's okay.
One
okay.
question, Pak Yuda,
Yeah.
one question. You said that you cut about half of the clerkship. So
Yes.
the question is, you calculate it as the length of the period, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think we already discussed with all the departments, the minor and major department. At the first plan, the dean and the vice dean just think about 2 weeks for the minor department and 4 weeks for the major department. But after discussion with the public health department and the other major clinic department, I think it's very difficult. It's just 4 weeks only the online learning. So we decide all the same, all departments same, 2 weeks. But after that, I think we continue with the same like before. In major, it's still like 10 weeks. That already we already have 2 weeks, and the minor just only continue with 3 weeks left. That's it, Prof. Eka. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak. So we understand that we need to remember we cannot give any bonus to COAS, right? Because they need to really competence, right? So it's our problem because we can just cut, and we cannot pass them as a doctor if they are not competent. So, so we will talk later in IT, Prof. Budu, maybe later you give your opinion, yeah? So we go to Bandung, yeah? Bandung is the place that I love it very much. So cool place. So Dr. Setiawan, I hope you already come back from Goes, from Tangkuban Perahu. Dr. Setiawan, go ahead.
Yes.
What are you doing with your COAS?
Thank you very much, Prof. Eka. Good day for everybody. I would like to share a little bit different from the others because everything has been discussed about what happened with our correction program during COVID-19, and there is no significant difference what we have done here in Bandung in comparison to other centers. So I just want to raise the question whether does it work, what is perceived by the students versus the lecturers. So I will give you some data what we have done by organizing quick survey both to the students and also to our lecturer representing 11 departments. So if you look at here, the change of mode for clinical education from face-to-face to online is quite comparable because at least we can see around 50% the lecturers and also the students said the quality is quite equal or better. So I think we can still say that even though we changed to online, but the effectiveness is quite okay, 50-50 in comparison to the face-to-face. If we look at the preceptor ability and also availability to do this activity, it is also quite good that the majority of the preceptor can perform, can facilitate the online session. But if we look at the capacity of the preceptor to be improved, there is a different perspective of the lecturer compared to the students. The lecturer has a good insight because most of the lecturers come from the baby boom era, which is not digital native. They have to learn. So they have good insight that they have to improve the IT literacy. But the students give appreciation because, in fact, the online session can still be done. The thing is that the students say still there is lack of content and also communication skills of our lecturers as a preceptor, and also something to do with the motivation, because if we don't see the students directly, how can we still have a good intake and interaction, and also how can we facilitate and also motivate the students? And the rest say nothing to be improved. if you look at the various platform, I think not only Zoom, even though the majority still use Zoom, we also have other alternatives because the university has collaboration with Google. So we also use Google Meet, Google Classroom, and also the university has its own platform, a so-called Live Unpad. Now we talk about the feelings of the student. Yeah, we have to be careful that certainly the students majority say they are still afraid of the fulfillment of competency. And I agree with the idea from Gajah Mada University that we have to really look at in more detail about the deficiency, what has to be what you call it fulfilled later on. So we also prepare to have a boost program after COVID. Hopefully we can do it, let's say during semester break, so that the students will not lose the time for that. While the lecturers see what happened during structured activity, the students show enthusiasm, even though inside perhaps the students still have afraid of fulfillment of the competency. Therefore, we are trying now virtual patient to mimic the situation, also to trigger several competency, which is very important for the future doctor. By having the XR clinician application to do a problem solving learning. And the good thing is that we have a direct feedback through this activity. We can see the strength and weakness of each individual student in terms of clinical reasoning, management ability, and also this application is very complete because it embraces not only the clinical aspect, but also psychological and also economical value of its management or treatment proposed by the students. And also we ask the students, the participant students, about his or himself by using this new method for virtual patient. And they said that it is quite good in terms of diagnostic process, knowledge application, systematic process of comprehensive management, and also experience clinical process. But certainly there are many more something to be improved from our students. While this is the application, what should be improved and also what went well, what is the advantages by using this application. And even though we only have 9 samples, but 8 out of 9 say that we should still use this for clinical practice, at least to challenge the students with quite a real situation. In addition to the clinical activities, also we have voluntary activity, and it allows our students to interact with the community using a teleconsultation. And we have a application here that the community can use a so-called Amari COVID software to screen the condition, and based on that, the students will contact. And until now, there are around 800 communication, and it is quite interesting that for some cases, there are so many communications undergone until nearly 1 hour, but in average, it is less than 50 minutes. So it is quite good to give opportunity for our students to communicate with the patient in terms of community-based response system for COVID-19. I think that's all. So thank you very much, Prof. Eka, what we can say from Bandung.
Thank you very much, Prof. Setiawan. Very beautiful presentation. Yeah, I hope that you really inspire so many leadership because really beautiful. Yeah, so hope everything better soon. I miss to come to Bandung again, and
yes,
we will eat curry dog. Yeah.
Yeah, and also cycling. Don't forget uphill challenge for you.
Yeah, so we going to the most east province of Indonesia, to Papua. Dr. Trajanus Jembire is a surgeon and he is Dean of University Cendrawasih. So Cendrawasih is the symbol of Uncen, the most beautiful bird in the world. Please Dr. Trajanus, share what's happening in Papua.
Yeah. Thank you for Professor Eka. You invited me in the discussion. Yeah, I am the medical faculty of Universitas Cendrawasih. Here, yeah. Prof. Eka, you hear me?
Listening.
Yeah.
Right.
Prof.
Okay,
Eka, yeah.
Yeah, it's clear.
Oh, clear, ya. Nanti akan dijelaskan Prof. Eka sama pembantu dekan 1.
Ya, no problem.
Ya, oke.
Oke, Pak. Ya.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gerson. I'm the Vice Dean, Academic Vice Dean of Cendrawasih University Medical Faculty, and we are very sorry because we don't prepare any slides for this afternoon because it's a bit sudden for us. So, but we would like to explain about the conditions in the eastern part of Indonesia in Papua province. That we are not different from other regions, that we suffered from the COVID-19 disease here as well. And in terms of our clerkship in the University of Cendrawasih, since 15th of March 2020, we already stopped all the activity in the hospital, in the satellite, and also in the affiliate hospital. We stopped all the clerkship because the provincial governments already closed all the activity in the university, and suggest us to stop all the activity in the hospital as well for the educations. As you know that the government of Papua is the first government who closed the airport in Indonesia, and also for the ship, so the ship cannot come to Papua. And in terms of the concern of the parents, we cannot guarantee that the clerkship that we conduct in the hospital could be safe, could be a safe environment for the students. Therefore, we take the concern of the parents really seriously, and that's why we are currently stop all the activity in the hospital. But we are now starting to build a platform for the online learning for the clerkship student, because as you know that in Papua we don't have such a luxury facility, and also the internet here is not coverage all by 4G or LTE as in a big city. So we are trying to build the platform for conveniency for the students as well as for the teacher. But in the level of students who are not in the clerkship, we still use the university platform just to teach and to do the discussion and etc. and etc. So oh, okay, thank you, Professor Eka. So I think that's all what we can share, because Papua is a little bit different with the other province. So but we are still trying to develop the platform so we can deal with the situations, and hopefully the COVID-19 will be stopped soon enough, so we can start again with the clerkship in the university.
So, thank you very much. I know that Papuan people is very strong. There are not many COVID there. The COVID afraid to go to Papua. So we go to Sulawesi Utara. We have here Dr. Billy Keppel, is Dean of University Samratulangi. Oh, Pak Keppel, you have a lovely underwater. Next time, why don't we meet in Manado and we go together diving in Bunaken, yeah? Go ahead,
the
Pak
nice
Billy.
city.
Go ahead, Pak Billy.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity given to me. I appreciate for Professor Eka that arranged this, I call it international talk show, not only national but international talk show. We are sharing about the experience for the clerkship education during the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, this is North Syllabus Manado, and this is our head office of UNSRAT, is head office of Faculty of Medicine, and this is our main teaching hospital, Hospital of Professor Kando, the first dean in Faculty of Medicine. I think the situation regarding the COVID-19, the pandemic of COVID-19 is similar, not only in Indonesia, but almost all in the world. And our government already issued some rules, and the rules is about how to prevent the distribution of COVID-19 in university institution. And in 15th of March 2020, our rector already issued also the rules how to work and studying from home. Okay, this is Professor Eka. I'm sorry. You can hear and see my presentation.
Very good. Go
okay.
ahead.
This is only a brief our profile, academic profile, the number of academic staff. And in the clinical staff, we have 78 permanent staff and 65 non-permanent staff that belongs to Ministry of Health. They are distributed in 15 departments. About our students, the clerkship medical students in regular phase, we have 164, and about 200, they are already ready for conduct the national competence exam, what we call UKMPPD. Actually, 161 students were already ready for face the May 2020, the period of competence exam, but regarding the COVID-19, the examination was canceled. We have the total length of clerkship phase. We have 74 weeks plus 8 to 10 weeks for strengthening their knowledge before they conduct the national competence exam. Okay, actually, in according to these rules from rector, in 15th of March, after that, in 16th of March, all the students in hospital, we pull out because we worry about the transmission of COVID-19, because maybe they will exposed by the virus. So after 2 weeks issued the decree from the rector, we have meeting and we decided meeting to implement the studying and working from home. This is the profile about each department, how to allocate the students, the length of their clerkship period in all the department. For example, the obstetric, surgery, and internal medicine, they do 5 weeks for distance learning, virtual learning, and we hope that after the COVID-19. Oh yeah, okay. So I think the slide is too many. So how we implement the distance learning in the clerkship phase? We divided it in cognitive-based. The 3 domain of learning is cognitive and affective and psychomotor competence. Actually, for the cognitive-based competence, we still conduct the case presentation by a student or a group of students, how they perform the clinical procedure. Some students are given tasks to create videos. They do also journal reading and literature review. And we also have clinical key as a scientific academic source for the students and the lecturer to use it as a scientific source. For the effective-based competence, it's difficult for us because it's limited experience for us to assess students' attitude by only watching his or her performance in the video. For psychomotor-based competence, let me show you about, this is the example of how the student create the video where they use a case study. It is about pap smear. It's too long duration. No, it's only example. And the second one is, this is about gynecology examination. So the student create by themselves and perform to the lecturer, the academic staff, according to the objective learning.
Really? Okay, Pak Billy.
Okay. All right, there's no time for me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Next time you show me how creative is your student, yeah? We go to Universitas Muslim Indonesia Makassar. My old friend, Professor Sarifuddin Wahid, PhD. I know that you are going to have an online Sumpah Doctor. So, time for you, Professor Sarifuddin. Hello, Professor Sarifuddin.
Thank you. Barangkali bisa dihilangkan dulu ini, Pak. Yang Ratu Langit punya masih ada.
Oh ya, tunggu. Ya. I'm sorry.
Pak Billy, tolong di mute ya.
Sorry, how to delete it?
Pak Billy, tolong di stop streamingnya ya.
Maybe host mungkin bisa unmute saya. Saya nggak tahu mau klik di mana sekarang, udah hilang. Mungkin host.
Ya, ini hostnya lagi belajar.
Soalnya tombol untuk klik hilang di saya ini.
PPT-nya dikeluarin share screen-nya.
Ya, tapi dia ngerti.
Kayaknya nggak bisa dari sini kok.
Nggak bisa.
Nggak bisa. Saya juga nggak bisa sih.
Ya, sorry ya.
Oh ya.
Oke, ya. Sorry ya, Pak Sarifudin, kita juga lagi gaptek belajar nih. Oke, Pak Sarifudin, go ahead. Prof. Sarifudin. Ya, very good. Prof. Sarifudin, suaranya. Prof. Sarifudin dengar. Suaranya nggak ada.
Jangan di-unmute ya.
Pak Sarifudin, jangan di-unmute.
Ya.
Oke, very good.
Terpaksa dibantu cucu ini, Pak.
Waduh, bagus dong asistennya cucu.
Cucu asistennya.
Itu dibayar 1 juta.
Ya. Mahal bayarnya, Prof. Eka. Aduh. Diperasa sama cucu ini, Prof. Eka. Well, thank you for my opportunity to share in this meeting what we have done in our Faculty of Medicine. Actually, we have changed 3 times our decision in managing the clerkship learning in the hospital. When the rector come to decision to stop all the campus activity, we stopped all campus activity and began online learning for the preclinical student. But we worry about the clinical student. And we come to the rector to ask for special consideration for us to give a chance for still in the hospital. Because we are thinking about the importance of real case experience. And the second one is about the ethical issue, ethical consideration. I worry about the thinking of the student that if there is pandemic or epidemic, we have to run away from the hospital. So I keep them in the hospital, but there is many limitation. The limitation is about we remote all the student from the we remote all the student from the remote hospital. We remove all students from remote hospital, from countryside, and we concentrate in the hospital in the city of Makassar to control them, especially for discipline using the personal protection equipment. And the second is to reduce their time in the hospital. So they have to leave the hospital early as possible if already their task finished already. And the third one, using discipline using protection equipment, personal protection equipment. We're running this hospital-based clinical education for 2 weeks during the pandemic of COVID-19 virus. But after the second week, we are worried because according to the report, the student doesn't use enough protection equipment. And we read from media.
1 menit ya.
What happened?
1 minute.
We read from media that so many contamination or transmission from the student. And the second week, we moved to the online. We remove all students from the hospital. And the first week of this month, we decide to use this model, clinical clerkship during COVID-19 pandemic period. We divided the clerkship learning into virtual clinic, about 50 to 70% of the whole cycle, and we leave the rest cycle after finish the COVID, about 30 to 50% of the cycle. What we learned, what they used to learn in the virtual clinic is this one: small group learning, case report, portfolio from department archive, from daily practice of the teacher. Referat, journal reading, case-based learning, case reflection, Islamic and ethical value, scientific seminar, and assessment is pre-test and post-test. After finish the COVID-19 pandemic, we call again the student to back to their department to finish the rest cycle. The learning activity skill training, hospital rotation, portfolio, case reflection, Islamic and ethical value, scientific seminar, and assessment post-test for remedial, MIN-CX, dan Polski.
Prof, sorry ya Prof.
Okay, it is the last slide.
Okay.
It is finished. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope it is very good for sharing for all of the participants.
Oke, thank you ya. Kita sangat singkat teman-teman karena ini lainnya mau dipakai berita satu. Sorry ya. Kita ke Tanjung Pura, Dr. Asrodin dan Dr. Ita, with you very short ya. Sorry, kita udah lebih dari setengah jam dimarahin saya. Silakan Dr. Ita.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Prof. Eka and the Universitas of Pelita Harapan. I would like to, first of all, I would like to say thank you, and I'm very grateful to join this meeting. And then the little information that can we share from our university, from our faculty is, since 16th of March, we stopped all the clerkship rotation, and the preclinical student, medical student is doing the virtual learning using the many platform, using the WhatsApp group or Google Classroom, Google Meeting, and the Google Zoom, and the application of Zoom. But until now, we have no. We have planned to start using start the clerkship, but it's still still debate between the clinical teacher, and then we still wait until they make decision. But but we already discussed with the university, and then we have made decision to free the tuition fee for our medical student that in the clinical rotation, so they can free for this semester, and then the student that already pay for this semester, they can join to the next term without pay to tuition fee. Maybe that's what we can share. And then the second one, we also giving them flexibility about the masa studi. What? I don't know. Okay. So we consider to make it more longer for one semester. And then the third one, we already take the Hippocratic oath in the 13th April, and then for only so we can make our doctor can help the situation right now. Maybe that's what we can share.
Thank you.
From the University of Tanjung Pura. Thank you, Prof. Eka.
Thank you, Dr. Ita, for you really wise to give discount for student. Yeah, I will ask also my boss to give discount. So we go to Yarsi Jakarta, Profesor Rika Yuli Wandari, PhD Belas. Prof. Rika, tolong disingkatin ya karena waktunya. Sorry ya.
Baik, Prof. Terima kasih banyak. Good morning and good evening for everyone. So it's our great pleasure to join this wonderful meeting. So I would like to share the experience of ERC in adapting our clinical clerkship to online learning. So please let me introduce you the history of our online learning program. It was started in 16 March when our rector gave the decision that the academic activity in campus should be shut down.
So at that time, it was really confused because as we know, we adopt traditional method in teaching our clinical clerkship student. So suddenly we have to adapt all the curriculum into the online learning. So we start having internal discussion and then develop or choose the best way to do online learning for our clerkship, and then also have discussion with the Comcordic, the coordinator of our main education hospital. And within 2 weeks, we can almost have a conclusion. So in the beginning of April, we start having discussion with other satellite hospital and affiliated hospital. And in the first week of April, we started the online learning. And the online learning still continue until May, and hopefully it will finish in the 3rd week of May, because after that we will have a holiday, Idul Fitri holiday. And during the online learning, every 2 weeks, we conduct computer-based tests for all the students. And hopefully, if the pandemic COVID can finish in June, hopefully we can resend our students for clinical rotation in the hospital. Of course, they still need self-protection equipment, proper self-protection equipment, and we need to adjust the duration of the clerkship in the hospital. So as we know, this is some teaching method and assessment method. We usually implement this for our clinical clerkship students. So during the COVID pandemic era, we need to be carefully select which teaching method and which assessment method that can be adopted into online learning, especially consider the level of competency as written in Standard Competency Dr. Indonesia 2012. So finally, we agree, the clinical lecturer in our campus and in the hospital agree to select these 6 methods to be implemented during the online learning. They are case discussion, journal reading, referat, skill demo, and CBT. So each of them has a portion for the final grade. Like for case discussion, journal reading, and referat, get 5% of the final grade. And then skill demo is done using the video, and the computer-based test get a bit bigger portion, about 20%.
1 minute, bro.
Oh, 5 minutes more. And we also ask the student to involve in my recon provided by Dicty. Because of the online learning, then when we resend the student to the hospital, for the major department that regularly they will take 10 weeks for the clinical rotation, after the online learning, they need to fulfill the remaining 8 weeks. And for the minor department, from 5 weeks in the regular time, become 4 weeks after online learning. And the case presentation is provided by the clinician, like showing the picture of the case. And for journal reading, the student select the paper to be presented and to get a critical appraisal. And for referat, the lecturer select the title of the case that should be presented by student. The clinical skill demo is done either by the video that is provided by the teacher, the lecturer himself, like in this example, our surgeon create their own video about the suturing. And also we develop our own repository video that can be used for students in pre-medical state, pre-clinical state, and also can be used for our clinical clerkship students. And also, luckily, there are a lot of that is available in open source. Like for example, in this video, this is a video about physical newborn that is provided by Open Pediatric. It's very useful, can be used for our students. And the other one, like physical examination for thorax, provided by University of Leicester. This one is also very interesting and can be used for our students as well. And, I will skip the other example. And the final one, we also conducted CBT, computer-based test. We use the CBT using our campus CBT system, but it is connected to internet. And the student will use two different devices, laptop and mobile phone. Laptop to connect to Zoom, and the device to connect to our CBT system. By having these two devices, so the lecturer can monitor how the student do the CBT test, whether they do it properly or they do cheating. And all students must attend this CBT to graduate. I think that's all short introduction about the.
Thank you, Prabrika. So we go to Mataram, Lombok Island, most beautiful island. Dr. Samsu Katrian, THT, from University Mataram. Please go ahead, Dr. Hamsu. Tolong dipercepat ya, Prof ya. Kita diuber-uber. Prof Hamsu. Halo, Prof Hamsu.
Thank you, Prof.
Silakan, Dr. Hamsu.
So, I would like to maybe directly to the slide because the time is very limited. Yeah. Okay, so I would like to share about the implementation of the online based learning in clinical rotation in Faculty of Medicine, Mataram University. So I think the problem is similar. The impact is also, I think, almost in other places similar. And in our faculty, we divided the clinical rotation to two stages. So the first stage is the online stage, and the second stage, we hope that after the normal condition, we can continue the stage normally. So in the first stage, we provide about 10 to 30% of the clinical rotation in this period. And then after we calculate, the student will be arranged for their rotation for about 4 months. And we hope that in the online stage, maybe we can reach the competency, especially for the cognitive purposes, but also we hope that there is affective and small amount of the psychomotor can be reached. And we hope after the normal stage, the 70% of the time of the clinical rotation will be conducted. And then we hope that all competency could be achieved. Yeah. So here is the step-by-step of our modification in the clinical rotation. So first we coordinate with the learning coordinator in the each department, and then they identify what is the level competency and the clinical competency that could be reached with the online, and then identify the cognitive aspect in the clinical rotation, and we can forecast how many weeks we need to finish it. And then we do the modification of activities, especially with the not workplace activities. And we arrange the journal reading, clinical tutorial, case report, with previous case or maybe with the simulation case. And then this head of study program decide what resources we need and what method we need, such as Zoom, WebEx, Google Classroom, and also maybe we give some reference, and then we make this schedule. And we coordinate also with the Committee for Learning Coordination in the hospital, and we collect all of the results from the department, and then arrange the modification in the first stage, and then conducting the briefing for the student and also for the lecturer, so the student can follow the program completely. And then the faculty make the later for the implementation and also for the evaluation. Here is the modification. Maybe in surgery, we conducted 3 weeks, in OBGYN 2 weeks, and so on. Here is in the other department. And maybe this is the clinical rotation in the beginning, and then the modification. So we conducted only for the 4 months, but it's depend on the progress of the COVID-19 infection. If it prolonged, so maybe we should re-modification again the clinical rotation.
1 menit ya, Prof. Dr. Hamsu. 1 menit.
Thank you. So I will show you the some of the implementation in some departments, such as in the surgery department. Here there is briefing, and then there is case report with the mini lecture, journal reading. And here in the Department of Dermatology and Venerology, it was running well also. And besides with the Zoom meeting, we do also with the WhatsApp. Okay. And then here in Department of Pediatric, there are many activities here. There is a clinical tutorial with the quiz, and then journal reading, face presentation, and then the student also have a task to build the video, for the immunization, and then also for the pediatric social, with the Kahoot, and I think there are so many sample in the other department. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Dr. Hamsu. It's very beautiful, very beautiful. But sorry, time is limited. So we go to Danau Toba. Professor Aldi Rambe, neurologist from USU. Are you there?
Yes,
Professor Aldi. Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Professor Aldi.
I'm waiting for the PowerPoint to be shared. Thank you, Prof. Eka, for arranging such a beautiful meeting like this. I would like to present what we do for clerkship education in USU Medan. Slide, please. Slide, please. Second slide, please. These are the rotation in the previous slide, please. No, the previous slide. Yes, this one. This is the rotation in USU. We have 2 rotation. The first rotation and the second rotation contain each 9 departments. Slide, please. On March 16, slide, please. On March 16, the chancellor decided to pull out the education in USU to distance learning, online learning. So I write a letter to provide the distance learning for 2 weeks for the first period, and we also pull out our students from the hospital for 2 weeks and switch the methods to online teaching. Slide, please. After 2 weeks, we meet to evaluate, and some of the professors were worried about the level of competency that should be reached, cannot be reached with this distance learning. So since the condition is getting worse, we stop the clinical rotation for 4 weeks, and we have meeting discussion to provide a better one after that. Slide, please. After 4 weeks, the situation is not getting better. Instead of it getting better, it's getting worse. So we are worried about the students' length of student period. So we decided to restart the distance learning for our COAS, for our clerkship program on 27th of April. Slide, please. When we restarted the program, we do notice that we have several limitations, like distance learning has no hands-on practice, lack of hands-on practice, lack of bedside teaching and OSG activities, costly because the student have to spend more money to buy phone bill, and limited experience as a real doctor. This is our expected limitation, and as I think we have the same problem all over Indonesia and in the world also. I asked Professor Eka to share our survey to the students. We did the survey last week. Actually, the survey is for internal usage at first, at the beginning, but I'd like to share the survey to all of you. Slide, please. This is our survey. We have 378 respondents who are mostly located in Medan, and they mostly stayed at their own home. Slide, please. Slide, please. We asked about the previous slide, please. The previous slide, please. Yes, thank you. We asked the students about the types of internet connection they use, and most of them use mobile handphone or mobile phone as a hotspot, and the second most they use internet broadband. Slide, please. This is the problem with them. We asked the student how much bandwidth they use during the distance learning program, and most of them use a quite big quota for this, and they do said that they do inform us they have limitation accessing the internet. 71% said that they have limitation while accessing the internet. Slide. This is for the question distance learning of the obstacles. The students answered that the main problem is the internet connection instability. Almost 90% said that this is the main problem, and then the second problem is blackout and costly, I think. And for the solution, they usually visit their family members or go to public places where they can provide a better internet connection. Slide, please. Slide, please.
Okay, Pak, you okay? Hello.
Yeah, yes, Prof.
You finishing?
The slide is missing, Prof. The third slide. I still have few more slides.
Oh, sorry.
Pak Roy, please. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, next slide. So about considering the learning issues, the students, the most commonly used during the distance learning is cash report, lecture or tutorial, and morning report, and some others. Slide. Slide, please. Yeah, and then they almost 90% of students say that the schedule and the topics are clearly shared, and the most commonly used platform is Zoom, and some of them also use Skype, Google Meet, or Ushu e-learning. Slide, please. According to the lecturer's IT capability, more than half of the students said that their lecturer's IT capability is quite good. It's good enough for the distance learning, and the system is good enough, but only for 50%. The other 50% said they have trouble with they have difficulty with their internet system. Slide. Most of the students studied 1 to 3 hours online in one day, and the average lecture time mostly is around more than 1 hour in every day. So this is the length of study online for each student every day. Slide. Okay. And most of the students said the preceptors give them enough time to discuss the lecture, and the current learning system is good enough. Is only 50% said it's good enough. Right? Slide, please.
Okay, Pak.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof. That's our survey conducted last week. I hope it can give you some information from that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Adi. Very honest evaluation of us. Thank you very, very much. It is beautiful. So, Prof. Budu, please ask all the deans make a criticized letter to Menteri Kominfo Johnny Plate why internet in Indonesia is so bad. I'm sorry, I'm not criticized, but compare with Singapore, with other, I believe our internet connection is the worst. Sorry. Let's all the deans criticize them. We need a remote, we need online, we need the best internet system. That's right. Prof. Budu, nanti kita protes keras ya. Ini bagaimana? Masa karena internet kita nggak bisa bagus kalah sama negara tetangga ya, Prof. Budu ya. Okay, we go ahead to Bandung again. University Christian Maranatha, Dr. Luciana. Luciana, you there? Please share. Sorry ya, agak singkat ya Bu ya. Aku diburu-buru waktu nih. Okay, go ahead. Siap-siap. Suaranya. Oh, you're mute. You're mute. Guru see you mute your computer.
No, already.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Good. Loudly.
Okay. Good afternoon. Greeting to all of us. Thank you for the opportunity given to me at this respected forum. I'm very grateful, especially for Professor Eka as the initiator on promoting this magnificent activity. Terdengar, Prof. Eka? Halo, terdengar?
Go ahead.
I'm very grateful, especially for Professor Eka as initiator on promoting this magnificent activity. I'm grateful as well for the AP President, Professor Budu, that has been supporting this activity. I will share the clerkship education in Department of Medicine at Maranatha Christian University since the beginning of work from home and education distance learning state by President of our university. Please slide. So the education distance learning was began on March 16, 2020. It is for the next day, we conduct our distance learning at our faculty. During this COVID-19 pandemic, it's a difficult period. During this period as well, we have a lot of change in regulation and condition. Therefore, we are required to have a new and innovative technique. For the example, since physical distancing is required, we need IT and online tools. It's required. Please slide, please. Slide, please. Slide, please. Next slide. For the example, since physical distancing is required, we need IT and online tools. It's required a lot of effort, and we are not prepared. However, let us not be stressed and do as much as we can in order to have positive energy. Slide. Nggak bisa ya slide-nya ya? Slide please. Beginning of EDL, it was 17 March of us. Medical activity was raised and clerkship rotation was stopped. However, EDL still goes on, even though not every department can do it well. And also it was not really effective. So we put a lot more effort on preparation to remedy this. Slide please. Slide-nya nggak jalan ya. Next slide. Halo. Halo. Slide-nya nggak jalan ya. Halo. Halo.
Ya itu jalan.
Slide-nya nggak jalan ya.
Itu punya bulus itu slide. Itu jalan bulus sih ada.
Tidak jalan.
Ada itu slide. Halo Bu Lucy. Halo Bu Lucy. Halo Bu Lucy. Oke Bu Lucy.
Halo, slide-nya tidak tampil.
Tampil ada.
Oh oke. Jadi next slide.
Oke, ini terakhir ini slide-nya.
Wah, the activity can be done is our mini lecture, CSS, CBD. It is all done through online work from home and lecture from home.
Thank you, Bu Lucy. Bu Lucy, thank you very much.
Belum selesai. Ya sudah.
Thank you very much, Bu Lucy.
Okay.
So, we go to Bumi Rencong ya. We go Bumi Rencong, Unsia. Ya, Unsia, Profesor Maimun Sukri. Profesor Maimun Sukri, are you there? Ayo, Unsia, kasih lainnya ke sana. Ada nggak? Dr. Mahmud Kasanawi dari Muhammadiyah Makassar. Dr. Mahmud, are you there?
Okay, can you hear me?
Dr. Mahmud, yes.
All right.
Siapa ini? Halo, maaf, ini lihatin.
Hello, can you hear me?
Ya,
okay. We run out of time. I'm going fast without slides.
Oke, Pak Mahmud, sorry ya, Pak Mahmud. Ini agak di belakang, tapi I know you bisa nyihir para peserta. Oke, Dr. Mahmud, go ahead.
Okay, we run out of time, so I'll go fast without slides. Okay, we have preclinical and clinical stage in our education, medical education. The preclinical is almost the same. We use online lectures, PBL, that can be done online. There's no problems. Problems comes when we have to do exam. We don't have artificial intelligence to watch the students like in Melbourne, but unfortunately, then we have to deploy so many lecturers and administrative staff to watch the students. So we divide the students, several students for one staff. That's the preclinical stage. Issues, there are many issues in the clinical stage. We we have so many challenging issues. Just like Prof. Sarifuddin said, safety of the students is one of our concern. That's not only our concern, but that's also concerns of the parents. The parents' concerns is so strong, so great, and they keep on asking us to let the students pull back from the hospital. They regarded the hospital as a red zone or dangerous area, and they don't want their children to bring virus to the family or to bring virus home.
Yeah.
So some department can still run the teaching using online, but that's not possible for the whole department. There are several reasons. Some of the doctors or lecturers are busy in the hospital because of the hospital is so hectic. And some lecturers avoid hospital, but that's okay. If they avoid hospital, then they can work home. But there are many competencies that cannot be achieved in there. We did give students assignments, and then they asked them to make summary. But that's only work for several departments because not always applicable to others. And some idealistic thoughts also arise. This is the time, they said, this is the time that we can teach the students to have empathy, to do, well, to have a quick response in some cause of disasters like that. However, because the preparation is not there, availability of protective gowns is not as we expected. Protective gowns is very limited, so we stop it. We don't want students to get involved too much.
Finish, ya, Pak Mahmud. 2 minutes, Pak.
That's almost finished. So, in summary, we do not let the students continue. We pull the students back out. We only give them some assignments, but after that, we do not continue. And we have decided that we have to extend their clerkship period because of some of the competence that they haven't achieved. So we consider achievement of the competence is more important. Thank you. Yeah, that's all, Prof. Eka. Back to you.
Very, very beautiful. Last but not least, we go to the most northwest of Indonesia, Bumi Rencong. We invite Professor Dr. Maimun Sukri from Siak Kuala. Please, Professor Maimun. So, mute, suaranya mute. Suaranya mute.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Professor Eka. It's appreciate Professor Eka to arrange this meeting, and thank you for our Dean of Indonesian Faculty of Medicine. Could you show my slide?
Right. Wait, you can talk first. They are managing.
Okay. In which the current happens in Siak Kuala University, we have the 3 phase until now, but the first phase is in transition. We start 17 March to 17 April, and the second phase is evaluation
of the transition period. And the third phase is stabilization, start from 20 April until now. What we do in transition phase, what happened, what the problem we got it in transition phase. We know that the background of the pandemic COVID is come suddenly, but we must be handled quickly. A declarative education system must be changed from the conventional to distance learning. It's different with the tsunami disaster in our region in 16 years ago. Most of students we moved to the other university in Indonesia, like Hasanuddin, Gajah Mada, Indonesia, and North Sumatra University. But it's different in the total disaster. What we got problem in the transition phase is the system was not well organized and the evaluation system was not standardized. But the evaluation phase, 62% of students felt that learning outcome were not achieved, and 60% of students feel they are given too many assessments and lack tutorial. So we go to stabilization phase now. That from April to now, uniform distance learning guidance for clerkship program, we call that clinical rotation, is divided into cognitive phase and psychomotor phase. The psychomotor phase is carried out after the pandemic is over. In clinical rotation, minor rotation, conventional rotation is 10 weeks, but the distance learning currently with cognitive phase 6 weeks and psychomotor phase 4 weeks, and will carry out after the pandemic is gone. The minor rotation, conventional rotation is 5 weeks. In distance learning, we put them 3 weeks, and psychomotor phase is 2 weeks. It's the experience of our institution, and there is same with not different, really different with the other faculty. Thank you very much, Professor Eka.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. This is very beautiful, very useful, so that we know that some medical schools that still not doing anything than we expect that we could do, because we do not know until when the corona gone, right? So please, my suggestion, do something for our coas, then anyway, at least they can have like a semi-competence. It's not possible to give a full competence, but at least something to do. Otherwise, our coas becoming depression and becoming very stressful at house. So we are very happy because, you know, in this meeting, this is very sudden, only 2 days preparation. And with us, we understand that we have 4 from 5 world top class medical school and 6 from 20 top world class medical school. So we are very proud. So we learn each other, and then Indonesia should jump to be also one of the best in the world. So we missing Dr. Sutoyo because he has an emergency case, but okay. Last, Dr. Andre will 1 minute show you about our case of comprehensive medical. Last for the closing. And thank you very, very much. I'm sorry if I'm not professional. Sorry if something not happy, but we will repeat again, yeah? Thank you very much. Dr. Andre, last.
Yes, thank you, Professor, Dr. Deans, Vice Deans from US, UK, and from Singapore, and also from Australia, and all from Indonesia. In closing video, we would like to share our apprenticeship student do when they was in home. They was joined to have a multidisciplinary team discussion with our neurosurgeon, pathologist, and also with the ophthalmologist. So the children, when they are at home, they can see what they do, life surgery and others related to what they should do at Kershit. Maybe that's all. Thank you for your time, energy, for almost 3.5 hours. Maybe you can share all the feedback to us so we can improve on the next e-learning another Zoom meeting. Thank you. See you all.
So again, thank you very much. Thank you very much and see you. Hopefully Corona gone soon when we meet again. Yeah, miss all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, close. Tutup ya. Tutup berita satu gitu.